The time has finally come and it is a box day yet again. Can you guess what it is? It's super huge and I had to struggle a lot to actually get this package. Surprisingly, it took over 1 month even though I paid for EMS, which should have got here like in just a week or maybe 3 days. And on top of that, the mail made me pay like 400 and something for import charges. Like that is so crazy. I was so pissed. I had a bad day, but anyways, guess what it is, guys. If you take a guess, you have 3 seconds to guess right now what it is. Comment down below right now. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much for all the support that I'm getting in my videos. This wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you guys, so I appreciate it with all my heart for all the support, comments, and all of that. It's very helpful, so thank you guys so much. And alrighty, man, the final chance is here. Guess what it is? 1, 2, you already guessed it, maybe 3. There it is, man. S.H.MonsterArts King ghidorah is finally in my hands. And I know I said a lot of times I wasn't going to get it because it was too expensive. And at the time I was super close, but bills were always on me, and yes, it came damaged, which sucks because I really enjoy collecting boxes. And like I said, I wasn't planning on getting this figure, and out of nowhere my channel started doing super good. And I told you guys, this wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for your support, for all of your views, comments, your shares, everything. It's very appreciated. And out of nowhere I had enough, and even over the top actually, and I'm super thankful for you guys. You guys are the best. And it kind of sucks that it took 1 month because I actually had to delay so many things, so many videos, project ideas. But now that I finally have it, it's about to get very lit, guys, with a lot of videos. You guys know what's about to happen, and I gotta say, this box is huge. I struggled so much getting this thing out, and out of nowhere, you guys saw that? All the stands kept on falling. I don't know, the mail guys must have opened my box. No wonder it took 1 month. I guess they opened it up, they lost some pieces. I noticed later on, maybe. But yeah, I did not like that. I was not satisfied with the mail at all. I was very disappointed that I actually had to pay extra money because the box was damaged. The inside box was damaged and the pieces were falling apart. So that meant that someone had to open my package, and it really sucks. And I gotta say, man, those wings are huge and they feel very fragile. I don't know, the material just feels like super hard, almost like resin, if you will. And I don't know, this color on him looks very dry, like a very pale type of color, and that doesn't really fit this figure. From what I remember, he was almost like a yellowish tone, maybe like a between of yellow and orange, kind of looking shiny at times. But yeah, here's the stands that you get with this figure. So I believe you get 3, 2 for the wings and 1 for his crotch underneath if you want to, or it's up to you how you want to pose this figure. And the tails, it comes separately right here. Now this kind of reminds me almost like a resin kit or like a kit itself, because when you buy a kit, right, it comes in multiple parts, you have to assemble it, and that really does remind me of a resin kit a lot. So this to me right now is feeling more like a resin kit than a articulated figure. And I gotta say, man, this figure is huge, very huge. Wow, I'm very impressed. So after that, you have to assemble the figure, the wings, the tails, pretty much. And so far, I have to say, this figure feels very limited when it comes to articulation. Just looking at it very closely, I noticed that some details were missing. It's inaccurate from what I can tell. The heads are way too big, necks are way too huge as well. Now when it comes down to articulation, I noticed this is the first time in the MonsterArts that this figure itself feels like more like a resin kit, very limited when it comes to articulation and details. Especially looking at the wings, you can tell that something is just quite off from it and details are just missing. The wingspan is obviously incredible. It's one of the largest MonsterArts figures out there, as I told you. The chest and necks, they have a lot of details. I think it's one of the best features on this figure, looking at it from the neck all the way to the bottom. Wings look impressive, but not that impressive. when you compare it to other figures itself. You notice that the details, like the scales around his wings, are very not so detailed as you will. It looks like it's missing some paint application, more like shading and all of that. That's one of the things that makes this figure look weak, is in the paint application. I think it's very soft and they could have done better. Now I noticed something strange with my heads. I saw a lot of reviews and a lot of people said every single head it's the same, you know, with the horns, and I noticed that. Just look at the left horn. That one looks very different. I'm not sure if it's because it was super hot and they bent over or something like that, but definitely that one looks different from the rest of the heads. I believe the middle and the one on the right look exactly the same. The only one that looks very different and unique is the one to my left, and that's, I don't really mind it if it got banned due to the sun. I don't really care, because that's something that I really wanted with this figure, is to have something that makes every single head look unique and special, you know. And sadly that's not the case for this figure. Now I do know that you can actually pose this figure with his wings coming down just as he was crawling in the movie, and I think that looks really good. But I must say, this is at your own risk, because I did notice the wings are very heavy and this could potentially make your ball joints loose over time or damage the inside, since I did notice the inside part got a little bit scratched and that could cause damage for the future. Now I noticed the tails are totally unpainted and that looks very bad. You would think paying $200 plus shipping, you would actually get a fully super accurate sculpted figure. Surprisingly, that's not the case right here. You're paying a lot of money for a figure that doesn't look quite as close to the movie. It looks more stylized, and I believe it wasn't Yuji Sakai who actually sculpted this figure. I know Yuji Sakai was the one that sculpted Godzilla 2019, and someone else did Ghidorah, this version of Ghidorah, and I don't remember who. And there's a huge difference between both of them. I can already tell, like I told you, in details. And this is a perfect example. On the wings, there was a lot of potential for a lot of details with veins and all of that. And just look at that. Now, if you have yours in person, you can definitely tell what I'm talking about. Look at it very close, and you can see that the details are lacking. Like, there's some detail, but it's not really marked. It's like they just did it with whatever, right? We don't really care. We're just gonna get some detail here and there and we're gonna pass it on. That's exactly what I think happened right here. Now when it comes to every single head, I do like this sculpture, but there is a few complaints that I do have with this figure. First of all, every single head looks the same except for my left head, and that's sad because they missed a big opportunity right here to make every single head unique. Now, does Ghidorah have derpy eyes? From what I can tell, some of them look perfect, some of them look like some paint was just mixed in together and you don't get fine details on his eyeballs. But other than that, it's not really bad. I'm pretty sure a nice paint job can actually fix the eyes for sure. Now, I want to talk about his heads. What do you guys think? Are you guys happy with the heads being stylized? Because I know they're huge. They're supposed to be smaller, just like in the movie. His neck is too thick from what I know. So his neck is supposed to be thicker from the bottom going upwards. It's supposed to get thinner or just like tinier, and then his heads are supposed to be smaller, and that's not the case right here. You actually get a much thicker and longer neck with much bigger heads. But even though every single head looks the same, I think it's a good sculpture. It has a lot of details. Overall, this actually looks like Ghidorah. Like, if you look at it, you can definitely tell it's Ghidorah from 2019. So I don't see anything bad with the sculptures. Just a few things that I would have improved if I was the one in charge, but it's not a bad figure in terms of details with his neck and head overall. Now I must say that the paint job here is quite better than the one at the bottom with his tails, wings and all of that. So at least you're getting a much better paint job coming on top of his head with his horns, teeth, tongue. I think the teeth look really good. Surprisingly, they look sharp, very good. A nice tongue color, everything looks surprisingly good. Now when it comes to articulation on his mouth, they don't really open that wide, and I thought it was just stiff because I was trying to open his mouth until I realized he doesn't really open anymore. But for size comparison, here you go, your NECA Godzilla 2019 versus the Ghidorah from Monster Arts, and they size up really good. I must say they look so good together. Either Godzilla from NECA or the Monster Arts, both of them, it doesn't really matter. Whatever Godzilla you have, it's going to look very good either way. Now here we have them in a very diorama type of battle pose with each other, and Ghidorah, I have to say, it's one of my favorite figures in terms of details with his body, except his wings and tails. And here you go, a size comparison with the Arco Jet. Now there is more Arco Jets coming, so don't worry about that. I will be correcting this size in the future later on, but here I'm just giving you guys an idea with Godzilla and the Arco Jet, and it is size accurate from what I can tell. It's not like the Bandai version where it's 6 inches with 6 inches of with Godzilla as well. So at least Ghidorah is bigger how he should be. Here you go, my 2014 Monster Arts and the 2019. Also, you get the NECA version. Ghidorah towers over every single figure, and that's how it should be. I believe that's how tall he was actually in the movie, which is really good. So if you're trying to do a mixture like I am with Monster Arts and NECA, it goes perfectly with your NECA Godzilla 2019. Now a size comparison with your Shin Godzilla and Godzilla Earth, which are your much bigger and bulkier figures, they don't look that bad. Honestly, they look perfectly good as well. Nothing bad to complain about either figure. So it's not really a must for you to get the Monster Arts Godzilla 2019 if you are worried for size. It's perfectly fine if you want to go for the NECA version. Either way, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a mixture between Monster Arts and NECA like I told you. And I think a lot of us are actually applying that strategy. From what I can tell in the comments down below, a lot of people were telling me the same thing. And that's just very smart for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the very beautiful poses that I'm getting right here, trying to give you guys an idea. And here you go, your Monster Arts Godzilla 2019 against your Monster Arts King Ghidorah and of course Mothra. All of the figures, as I told you, that they look perfectly fine with each other and they just go well together. I'm very surprised. Now I think later on, if they were to do a different Godzilla, it should be bigger because the supercharged version and Fire Godzilla actually grew in size. So maybe in the future we could be seeing a 7, maybe 8 inches tall Godzilla, but I doubt it because, well, I don't really want to spoil, but I know there's more things coming in the future. And this pose I really do love, all three of them together. Don't worry, the fourth one is incoming. That's all that I will say. So thank you guys for helping me find Rodan. Of course, you guys were very helpful. As soon as it went back in Big Bad Toy Store, I got it right away. So thank you guys. Now moving on to Ghidorah again. I think this figure, when you're looking at it, it looks overall stunning. It looks exactly, if not quite, inaccurate here and there from some parts. And I must say, this figure is impressive in terms of details and all of that, but here's something that lacks. So you know how I told you that his head is way too big? Looking back at the movie, I did notice that Ghidorah's heads are actually smaller than Godzilla's hands and even his head. And here in the figure version, you can tell the head is way too big for Godzilla. So yes, I did notice that, and it might bug a lot of people because I know a lot of people want figures that look exactly like in the movie, but I think this was a stylized choice to make this figure look bigger and better overall. Because just think about it, if we had a Ghidorah with smaller necks, smaller heads, it would have looked very weird. I think just having a big body, big wings, and just small heads, that would have looked totally weird. So I think that what they did right here, they wanted to give Ghidorah an overall more meaner, evil, bulkier look right here. Moving on to the tail articulation, I gotta say this stressed me out a lot because it kept on falling over and over again. And I gotta say, this is the figure that has stressed me the most when doing a review. It kept on falling no matter how hard I try putting the tail again and again. It kept on falling, and I just kept on getting so frustrated because not even a little bit, I just moved the tail and it fell. It was just too, I don't know, I might have to super glue the tails on, but for the articulation on the neck, I gotta say it's very stiff. It has a lot of movement, and it has improved from the Heisei King ghidorah. I remember that one had a lot of problems in terms of articulation located on his neck. The ball joints kept on falling, but with this brand new version, it looks like all the problems are now in the past. So this has definitely improved articulation located on his necks. Every single one of them feels stiff, very tight like it should be. Now, something to complain about, and I noticed, is one of my heads keeps on falling off very easily. So drop it down in the comments below. Is this the same problem that you're experiencing with your own figure? Because one of my heads just keeps on falling off just with slight movement, and that really sucks because there you go. When I'm trying to pose him looking up or down, it just keeps on falling off super easily. Just look at my thumb. It's very damaged just because of this figure. This figure is super sharp, and it just stresses me out a lot because when doing this review, I was expecting a lot of articulation because I paid over $200, right? This figure is very expensive. And again, just look at this. It just doesn't look finished. I gotta say, it feels like this figure was rushed. Now, the reason why I'm saying it's rushed, because it just feels like it. When you handle this figure compared to other Monster Arts, it doesn't feel like super articulated like it should. It feels like you're holding a resin kit that's super complicated, about to break. The engineer behind the wings just doesn't fit right. It feels strange, like the wings are about to break on you. Any second it's going to tilt over or all of that, right? So the only good thing that I have to say about this figure is the chest moving all the way up to his heads. That's good articulation. Moving down from his tail all the way to his back, I have to say that's poor engineering with his wings. They could have used something else, because honestly, what's the point of paying so much money if you're not getting the articulation they should have gave us? Now, this could be just my figure, but every time I would attach the wings, it's too much weight for him that the tails would keep on falling off. And I told you guys, that's one of my problems that I had with my figure, or have with this figure, is my tails fall off super easily. So whenever I would attach the wings, right, it was so much weight on him that the tails would just snap off, and that would cause my figure to tilt all the way back even with stands on. So that's a big no-no for me. Like, I don't know who engineered this figure. They could have used something much lighter, something that resists falls, or something that could have been articulated, maybe wired. I know wired isn't the best, but think about it, wire or this. So if you're looking to pick up this figure because you're expecting a lot of articulation, this is not the figure for you. And I'm being totally honest. I don't want to give you guys just a review and say it's a fantastic figure, you should pick this up, blah blah blah. I am not going to bullshit you. If you want a articulated figure and you're that type of guy, right, who prefers articulation over looks, this is totally not the figure for you. It's very limited, and even though it has articulation, it's going to frustrate you so much, just like me. The wings keep on falling off, the tail keeps on falling off. I have problems here and there. Now, if you're a guy who's into resin kits or just into statues, this is totally the figure for you, because even though it's marketed as a articulated type of figure, this feels more like a resin type of statue figure for me. And I have a lot of resin kits myself, and this totally feels like it. I honestly think they should have took more time to engineer this figure a lot better in terms of articulation, because that's the main line from this figure is articulation. Monster Arts is known for crazy articulation, and this feels like a step back. They sacrificed articulation for size and maybe looks. Now, one of the complaints that I have about this figure is just look at those tails. Did you see that? That's why the tails keep on falling off and my figure keeps on tilting all the way back because the tails on this figure are very thin and super small. When I got this figure, I was expecting much thicker and longer tails, but that's one of the problems why I suppose this figure does not hold in place, because they do rely on the tails in one way or another. Here you go, a size comparison with the Bandai King Ghidorah and the Monster Arts. Huge difference in size like I told you. And here you go, you're looking at the stands, that's how they look. And be careful, do not put the stands on his horns or his spikes, because it says in the instructions, if you put these stands exactly on his horns, leaning on them, your horn will snap or break most likely, and it will damage your figure. So please follow the instructions. And you can obviously pose this figure in a flying pose, but I feel like they should have gave us like a special color type of stand for that position right there, because this is too small. Now the box itself is very massive, and I gotta say I love the artwork and pictures that they took for this figure. I gotta say they did kind of lie to us and we got misleaded, because the figure that you're seeing right now, to me it looks more golden, more yellow, and the figure that I have in person looks a different color. But yeah, it came damaged and I'm very disappointed, because I told you guys from the beginning, I love my boxes, I like collecting them a lot, and sadly it got damaged. But overall, I do love the box. It's very vibrant for Ghidorah, and I do love that from this figure. And I noticed every single release or every single monster has its own unique color as shown. So here we have another comparison time for you guys. You guys can see the differences between both of them. This is by far the largest Monster Arts figure from this line, specifically with the Godzilla line. So there's no other figure like this. Like I told you, the size is one of the big key differences between all the figures, and of course details. But when it comes to articulation, it's questionable. Now here I did a very cool diorama pose, like always that I do. All the Godzillas, Mothra, the Arcojet fighting against the three-headed demon, Ghidorah, or the devil, however you want to call him. Something else that I forgot to mention was this figure does not include any effect parts like his gravity beams, any Arcojets or effects, nothing. You only get stands to obviously support his heavy weight, his mass, and all of that. So that's very sad, because that's a missed opportunity they could have gave us with this figure. And of course, it's like always, the first releases never have any effects, nothing extra, which is a surprise for Godzilla. That's the first in a long time that they actually release a first standard version and give us actually effects. Now I'm pretty sure the second version of Ghidorah will include a better paint job, maybe the fixed articulation, better stiff ball joint, and of course gravity beams. That's a must. We have all seen this where the first versions don't really include much. The second version includes better articulation, better paint job, more effects. The third version is by far the best, because it includes the best of the best out there. So if you guys want to wait, I do recommend you. You're not missing out, because at this time this figure has become rare. All you see is a lot of people selling it for $260 plus shipping, maybe $300. So I do recommend you, if you haven't picked up this figure, just wait for the second special color variant. It's going to be much worth it for you, because the price might come down a little bit, or it might be the same price as the original. Plus you'll be getting more effects, extra things, better articulation, and I'm sure you'll get a different stylized box art. My overall thoughts is this figure had potential to be better. I think the wings are holding this figure back, and they could have improved on articulation with the wings, tails, and every single part that there is to fix. In terms of color, they could have done better, no doubt about that. Thank you guys so much for watching my review. I'll catch you guys next time.